little sarcastic there. I know my videos aren't the most exciting thing. But so today we're looking at section 2.4, and this is something called the chain rule. And please, if someone could tell me why I have the red thing highlighted, but it's writing green, I do not know, but it is. So the chain rule comes down to this. Let's see if I can get red here. So let's say that y is f of g of x. What do we call that? That is a composition of functions. That's when one function is plugged into another function. And now I want to know, what is y prime? What is y prime? Well, it's f prime of g of x times g prime of x. This is the chain rule in as general terms as I can make it. It doesn't matter what the functions are. This is how you will do them. So let me do one example here for you. Let's just say that y was, I don't know. Let's say it's 4 sine x to the third. Would you guys agree that this is a composition of functions?
Yes.
That the f function here is 4 times whatever this thing is to the third, right?
Yes.
So how do we do that? Well, we're just going to use the rule. So y prime, I'm going to do the derivative of the outer thing. That's this thing here. That's this thing here. So I'm going to do 4 times 3 times, and then I'm going to leave the inside alone. Notice that I have not touched the inside. I did the power rule on the outside. So this isn't just a number. This is a function, right? So this is 4 times some function to the third power. So I did the power rule there. Does that make sense so far?
Yep.
And then what do I multiply this by? G prime. So it's cosine x. That's the answer. Now we could clean it up, but that's the answer. That is the chain rule. That's all it is. And you need to memorize the chain rule. That's all it is. Okay. Let me do a slightly different problem. Same idea. Let's say that y is, now this time I'm going to do sine of, let's say 4x to the third. Would you guys recognize that that is a composition of functions? There's a function inside of a function. Okay. So y prime, okay, and if I go back to here, first thing I do is I do the derivative of the outer function, leave the inner function alone. Okay, so what's the derivative of the outer function? Oh, that's cosine. Guess what I do to the inner function? Nothing. Now I can multiply by the derivative of the inside, right? What's the derivative of the inside?
12x to the
12x squared. That's it. You're done. That is the derivative. Now, again, we can clean that up if we want to, but I am worried about that. I want you guys to be able to do algebra, because that is a kind of an issue even at the calculus level. But if you give me that, I'm happy. Real happy. That's the chain rule. Now I'm going to do one more example, unless you guys have a question, and then I'm going to let you guys do an activity. Does this kind of make sense so far? I want to show you why it's called the chain rule. So let me see if I can think of a good one. So let's see here. Y is equal to, let's say it's x squared, and then it's sine, and then it's, oh boy, I might be getting into trouble here, but would you guys agree there's 3 levels of stuff going on here?
Yes.
Okay. So here's why they call it the chain rule, because you have to follow the chain of events. Okay? You got to follow the chain of events. So y prime, what's the outer function? The outermost function is this, in fact, before I do the derivative, it's this e thing. It's e to whatever the exponent is, which is some crazy function, right? What's the middle function? Sine of some other function. And then what's the last thing? X squared. You with me? So there's 3 compositions there, if you will, however you want to say that. So first thing I do is I do the derivative of the inside, which, by the way, what is the derivative of the e to the x? It's just e to the x. But in this case, it's not just x, it's that. So this is the f prime, if you will, right? In fact, if you wanted to, we could think of this kind of as f of g of, I'll call it h of x or something like that, right? There's 3 things going on. I just did the derivative of the e to the x, which is itself. Now I got to do the derivative of this. What is the derivative of sine x squared? Cosine x squared. Notice I left the x squared alone. And last but not least, guess what I have to do the derivative of? Which is? That's the derivative. That's it. That's the chain rule. Now, I could have 4 compositions. Now, you're not going to get 4 compositions probably, or 5, but you could. You could have as many as you want. Usually 2 or 3 is good. 3 is usually the most you'll see. But if you have more than 2, you have to do the string all the way down. What happens is, by the way, this is kind of a hard one, right? Students will get this, and they might get that, and then they forget that last little bit, or something like that, right? So again, I did this one because it was kind of the opposite of that one. Yeah. But this is the chain rule right here. That's the chain rule. Okay, make sense? Yeah. I need to pause this.